Andrew Yang was on CNBC, and he was talking about AI and the impact that it was going to have on jobs. Let's get into it.
A reduction of its corporate workforce eventually over the next few years. He wrote in a memo to employees that they should figure out, in his words, how to get more done with scrappier teams. That's nice. Joining us now, former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. It's a daunting future we have, Mr. Yang, obviously. And you've been, I was at was it a book party that I attended for you?
A book event.
6 years ago, talking about this on the horizon and the need for maybe even back then universal basic income. I guess at this point you're thinking, wow, it's accelerating faster than you even thought.
Yeah, it's here even faster than I'd imagined back in 2019 and 2020. And I talked to CEOs who are replacing thousands of customer service workers with AI, entire design departments, even coders are being supplanted. And Becky and I were just talking about how we used to tell our kids, hey, if you major in computer science, you'll be good to go. And now those graduates are having a hard time finding jobs. It's starting to appear in the numbers for recent college graduates and entry-level white-collar work.
If if you're a science fiction believer, I was going to ask you whether the whole Luddite chorus that we've heard for 150 years, that it's never actually it's always been better technology long term. Maybe not always, but many times even more jobs are created from the technologies that being displaced, whether it's internal combustion engines or whatever you want to look at. You would argue this time is different with AI. And
I think that soon the luxury is going to be manual products. So I'll give you an example, right? This Apple Watch right here is so normal, it's so common, it's so regular for people to be out here with Apple Watches that the luxury item then becomes the actual physical products that has a regular, dial and all of that stuff. The new luxury items is going to be that. So like even with cars, right? You see driverless vehicles, you see autonomous vehicles, you see Waymo and Tesla and all of this stuff. And so that stuff is going to become so normalized that the luxury item is going to be the internal combustion engine car. It's going to be the old school. It's going to be the physical car, the manual. You know what I'm saying? The car that you actually don't have any screens in it. It's going to be mostly buttons, and the new luxury is correct. It's going to be vintage. It's going to be physical. The classics. It's going to be stuff with buttons on it. Things that don't have any screens in it. That is going to be the play. I'm telling you, it's going to be so commonplace. It's going to be so normalized. It's going to be so a part of our lives that the physical touch, like Craftsmanship, is going to be championed. They spent well over $1 billion rebuilding the Michigan train depot. Ford Motor Company did. And I recently took a tour and I went through and I looked at all of it. And I was one of the last people to ever explore that because I used to do urban exploration on my other channel. I was one of the last people that actually documented and explored the Michigan Train Central Depot. And the way that they describe things and how the craftsmanship is and how they did things back in the day and how fast it took for them to build things, but they actually did it with physical manual labor, and they building buildings faster. They built buildings faster back in the day that was more grand and had more craftsmanship in it than it takes to build a building today with all of the technology, right? And so when you go through and you look at it and you look at the tile work, and they preserved most of the floors, and even they had the 3D print and then bring in hand craftsmen from London and from overseas and stuff in order to redo it back to its original grand, ways and what it looked. The people that make the money on that product, the people that makes the money on certain products, they are the people that have mastered their craft, the carpenters, all of those type of people. Those people aren't going away. So skilled trades is going to become more valuable. People that understand craftsmanship is going to become more valuable. Things are going to start looking the same. They're going to start being shaped the same. You notice how most cars nowadays, they all got light bars now? I remember, and I'm about to harken into a little bit of my automotive, why I like cars so much. I remember when BMW changed the game when they introduced the bangle butt, right? And the bangle butt was, there was a 740i's, a 745, 750s, and it changed from the 3 Series, and then the bangle butt was introduced into the 7 Series, and it was a higher lift on the butt of the car that then a lot of automakers started to try to mimic and put into their cars. Now you see that with a lot of the cars, even if it's an internal combustion engine, you see that with a lot of the cars now. Now they have a light bar across the front or a light bar across the back. And so, like, even if you look at Chinese cars and stuff like that, they don't have no passion. It's no emotion. It's nothing in it. It's just cram as much technology as you possibly get into it. When I get into a car, I bought my Navigator or whatever, and it's a phenomenal vehicle. But I'm gonna tell you, like, 90% of the features I'll probably never use. It's just the honest to God truth. Because, you know, you have to manage the technology. I'm probably never going to use the cooled seats, right? Or the massaging feature in the seat or anything like that. Being able to manually do things, we'll start to have more of an appreciation for it, because the world is going to become more like WALL-E. People that are born in a certain generation that understand the 64 Impalas and the 96 Chevy Impalas and the 2004 Mercury Marauders and the 86 Grand Nationals and the Chevy Camaros from the early 60s, stuff like that. When you start to think about those cars and those vehicles, the Fox body Mustang, if you can't, even when I go to car events, right? So I'll probably go to a car event today or Sunday, whatever. If you go to car events nowadays, most of the cars is already built. They're buying them from the dealership and then they just revving the engine. They don't understand that you used to have to work on your car. They don't understand 4-barrel carburetors. They don't understand that type of shit. They don't understand that you could have a 350 or a 305 and turn it into what the flow masters and chop off the exhaust and intercoolers and all of that type of. They don't know anything about that. They don't understand any of that type of stuff. And because they don't understand it, it's going to become more valuable, because anybody can buy a built car, but very few people actually are customizing it and can drive their car. Everything is a museum now. Everything is a museum now. And so when you see AI and technology continuing to rapidly evolve, the craftsmanship is going to be the thing that is valued most. People are going to spend more money on houses that are built a certain way. You can go, it's applicable to everything. You can go into a neighborhood that's a cookie cutter neighborhood and all of the houses look the same, and it's not as valuable as a house that is built, refurbished, and redone to its original grandeur in the 60s or the 70s that was built a certain type of way, out of brick, right? Older, nostalgic with modern amenities and technologies with better refrigerators and stuff like that. That is the stuff that is going to be valued. So there will always be a market for the things that we love today, but the technology aspect of it is going to transform so fast that people that are not embracing it and on the train, they're going to get left behind. I wear this watch when I go to sleep, and I wear this watch when I work out. That's it. I wear this watch when I go to sleep and when I work out. I have a genuine love and affinity for nice watches and timepieces. I appreciate the slate dial and the fact that it was, it took so long to craft. So it just depends on who you are and what you want.
And then it's not, then if you, like I said, science fiction, not just displacing us from work, but maybe just displacing us altogether 100 years from now.
Yeah, well, we have to take a lot of those science fiction style scenarios very seriously, Joe, in my opinion. And the most common job in 29 states is still being a truck driver. You have robot trucks just now hitting the highways.
So they'll be gone.
Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, said, look, we're going to automate away a lot of the entry-level white-collar jobs. And he's right, because I talked to executives at these companies who are doing exactly what Andy Jassy is talking about at Amazon, looking around saying, hey guys, instead of hiring a bunch of 22-year-olds, maybe we should have AI do that work. So I fear for the next generation, because all of the experience that maybe we got in our 20s and 30s, there might not be that kind of ladder available to them.
Look, Andy Jassy said that he wants employees to kind of take advantage and learn how to use AI, learn how to do their jobs better, maybe make things easier. Maybe it takes care of some of the grunt level work you don't like doing, but it allows you to have more space and room to do things creatively. Should we be afraid of that?
Well, what this means in real life, Becky, is you have a department of 6 people, let's say coders or designers, and then you end up eliminating 4 or 5 of them, and then there's one designer coder empowered by AI. So there's going to be a beneficiary in the organization, but you're just not going to need as many people in that department, and that's going to play out over and over again.
Pope had some interesting things, and he's getting involved. Last Pope was big on climate change. This might be important. And he says the worlds of science and politics need to immediately tackle this problem without allowing scientific progress to advance with arrogance, harming those who have to submit to power. And he's going to host a lot of people. But right now it's just breakneck. There's no governors on what's happening whatsoever.
I mean, if you think about the incentives of the individual firm, it's just to go as fast as possible, because there's like a bit of an arms race in terms of
it's competition. And so a lot of people will say, well, these companies need to slow up. Why would the fuck they do that? Because the companies, even though they may see the ethical concerns or they may see the technological concerns, they can't slow down because their competition is not slowing down. So in order for them to compete, it's almost like, you have to embrace the technology regardless of whether or not you agree with it, because it's vital for your survival of your company itself, because nobody is going to slow down. In order for this thing to slow down, for people to try to figure out how to regulate it and how to, put it in its perspective of what it is that we really about to be up against and what we're facing, everybody would have to slow down in the world, not just in the United States of America, because they got an arms race in China too. They have an arms race in Saudi Arabia too. They have an arms race in Japan too, right? It's not even just the companies here in the United States of America. There's an arms race in the world. And so you'd have to get the world to agree, which would never happen. And so basically we're racing into our own demise. And so enjoy it while you can. It's basically what you enjoy it while you can.
Cute.
Literally.
And the data and the model, literally. And then they'll look up and say, our competitor is China, so I got to go. The question is, what happens to people? And I'm someone who, look, I'm not anti-progress, anti-innovation. I think all of that stuff is very positive, but you have to be clear-eyed about the impact on people, on organizations, on workers.
Thanks.
And in my estimation, this 4th industrial revolution is the most dramatic thing that's happened to our society in history. AI might be the most radical breakthrough in human history. And so we have to think much, much bigger.
That allows more spare time, that allows people to, we become so rich from AI that maybe you can do UBI and not everyone has to work 5 days. You gave me a thumbs up. Is that the answer for you?
To me, that is the answer. The question is, how do we get from point A to point B? Because right now, the beneficiaries of AI are going to be a small handful of firms.
Basic income. I don't want that shit. I don't want that. I like capitalism.
And then the average 22-year-old or truck driver or whatnot is going to be just looking around saying, where did my job go? And they're not going to be experiencing that kind of value. That, to me, is what government and politics are for. That's what got me into the Democratic race in 2020. Unfortunately, right now, our political class is very, very far away from these problems. And one of our goals should be to try and bring them together the way the Pope's describing.
All right. So what do you think?
Andrew Yang was so far ahead of his time, and he's not really marketable, and nobody wants an Asian president. So you can fucking forget it. But he had the answers. And it was one of the reasons. And see, this is why when people say stuff like, well, Anton, you blindly support the Republican Party. No, I support Republican policies. But from a technological perspective, even though Andrew Yang was a person that was on the left, I don't support universal basic income, but he understood what was coming a long time ago. I was a heavy Yang gang supporter because he understood. On the Democrat side, I supported Andrew Yang But I knew, and I donated to his campaign. I actually stomped for him here in Michigan. On the Democrat side, I actually supported Andrew Yang, but he's not marketable. If you're not a black man or a white man, you're going to have problems getting elected for president of the United States of America. Just fact of the matter. It just is what it is. We're discriminatory. That's what we are. We're prejudiced. It don't matter how smart he is. It doesn't matter whether or not he can see it. It's the same problem with Vivek Ramaswamy. It's the same problem. He's intelligent. He can communicate effectively. So you can use him on a smaller scale to drum up votes or to get out certain messages, but they're not marketable. It don't matter how much they tell you. Don't matter how much they. Andrew Yang should have been president. Not president. Mayor of New York. He should have been mayor of New York. Honest to God. And this is what I'm saying. We get distracted by things that don't matter. And that's why you see these dumb immigration crises and all of this stuff. We get distracted from the real stuff that we should be focused on. And this is why these type of people will never become president of the United States of America.
I don't know if you call it a rider, but the initiative that's trying to be pushed into the budget bill, the one big beautiful bill right now that has made it through the House version. We don't know what's going to happen with the Senate entirely because of the Byrd rules and others, but it's a move to say state attorney generals, other states have no way of setting any rules or guidelines or laws around AI, that it should be only allowed at a federal level. And by the way, there are backers, a lot of the big AI names that are backing and kind of lobbying for that.
Oh, certainly if you're an AI company, the last thing you want is a hodgepodge of state rules that you then have to navigate or run afoul of. And a lot of these fronts, including social media, by the way, what you see is you see a federal hands-off approach, and then the states at some point step up and say, you know what, I don't love this treatment of customer data. They're trying to avoid that in AI. If you're going to have that, then you would need a buttoned up, sensible approach
like
from the federal government.
Guidelines before you.
Yes, exactly. But the incentives for the corporates will be, let us do whatever we want. And then even for the individual legislators, will be like, oh, do I want to mess with the AI guys? Not really. So you're going to end up with a wild.
Legislators are so dumb that they don't even understand it. Are you think about it? You're going to sit here and tell me that Jasmine Crockett, Bernie Sanders, AOC, that these people, that they actually even understand it from a technological perspective to be able to legislate it, to regulate it? They have no fucking clue. They're just figureheads. And honest to God, I'm just going to tell you the truth. They're figureheads. They don't have a clue. They have no clue on what. You don't see legislators talking about artificial intelligence. You don't see them talking about technology. You don't see them talk. They talk about surface level bullshit to continue to keep people caught up in these race-based conversations to say that, and the only talking point that they can have is, and I don't like Trump, or I don't like this, or I don't like the Department of Government. That ain't even relevant. That's not going to have any impact on what is going to happen in regular everyday people's lives. They have no clue. No clue. We are voting people in that have no clue. Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass. Karen Bass? Really? Get the fuck out of here, bro. These people ain't got a clue, man. And I ain't talking about just on the Democrat side. I'm talking about on the Republican and the Democrat side. Republicans don't have a fucking clue either. At all. We have people in office that has no clue on what is coming. The only person that I can give credit to is the Trump administration. And it's because he is having these conversations and he is closely connected to the Mark Zuckerbergs, to the Jeff Bezos. He is, at the very least, he has people in his corner, in his cabinet, having conversations or whatever, so on and so forth, that hopefully can give him some insight on how it is that we need to approach what is going to happen in the future. But other than that, all of the rest of these people, I don't see them having any conversations whatsoever about artificial intelligence, tying themselves to people that can give them insight into it, and even warning people or trying to regulate it effectively. It's going to be an afterthought. It's going to be an afterthought. But the people that are smart enough to actually put things in place and to have these conversations. Unfortunately, they are not the ones that are in office. That's just the way that it is. God Flavor says, but AD, they may not understand it, but they understand it. How can you understand the effects of something if you don't understand the impact? If you don't understand it, you can't understand the effects of it.